God of Weapons is a very, very weird game to dive into on a critical level. It's a survival-like mixed with inventory management like in Backpack Hero. In fact, there's even a package deal on for the both of them right now on Steam. From what I've played so far, when I compare God of Weapons to other games in the survival-like genre and how my initial time was spent in those games, I feel like God of Weapons just can't really compete at all. Even with some of the weaker titles I've played in that genre, God of Weapons just falls short in a lot of ways. But what I can say about God of Weapons is that for some weird reason, it's actually kind of fun and intriguing, owing mostly to the backpack management part of the game. Essentially, in the time I've played so far, I've been able to note a lot of things that I dislike about the game, but I keep finding myself having fun and being weirdly motivated to play. It's just very odd. This game is different, but I think that's why I'm enjoying it. I haven't played much of something like this, and that seems to be enough to keep me, just that little bit intrigued to keep going. Keep in mind, again, that I have not played enough to be confident in judging all aspects of the game, so these are my initial thoughts, but what I am confident in is the mixture of inventory management and survival-like. That combination works. It's just unfortunately not very well executed in this game specifically. A lot of your time in this game is spent in your inventory. Like a lot of time. You can definitely get quicker at it, but the game doesn't do a great job making the inventory management seamless. For starters, the alignment of the weapon or item with your mouse doesn't feel quite right, so as you're moving things around, you might have to overcompensate or move it in a slightly different direction to actually put it down. This seems minor, but adds up as a frustration over time. It also seems to lack some logic, like if you drag an item the same size over another one the same size, they don't switch positions, which is kind of weird. The game also doesn't let you take things out and rearrange them as you please, which sucks so much. That seems like a no-brainer mechanic to have, but instead you have one temporary outside inventory slot to put one weapon or item while you rearrange. It's just so stupid. I believe you can upgrade this temp slot to 2 and maybe a little more, maybe even a lot more, but my point here is that it shouldn't even be an upgrade you have to go for. To say I'm not a fan of this is an understatement. This is a very, very limiting system. For a game with a focus on the arrangement of your inventory, it doesn't do a great job at making that fun. Do I like anything about the inventory management? It is executed in such a way that it does have impact on the run. It's not a gimmick, it is necessary to have a well-made inventory, and I like this because it means that as soon as I'm pulled out of the game into my inventory, it means I'm still engaged and still thinking. Okay, what about combat? I mentioned that this game was different. One of the things it does differently is the nature of combat. We've rarely seen a camera position like this in this genre, and that changes the dynamic of combat, affecting how we perceive things like map size, movement, and enemy spawns. I am quite conflicted about combat. It's fun and engaging while you're playing it, and you do have to move around to avoid enemies, and there is some level of thought involved, but there are also elements going against it. E.g., the sound design isn't really there, and when the game is up close and personal, it needs to have impactful sound design. You can get away with lackluster sounds in Soulstone Survivors because of its scale, but this is a much more intimate game where you will notice the elements of design more often, so sound design can't be skipped as an important element. The animations are fine, nothing special. They do have that white flash and death animation that we are used to seeing in this genre, and it is certainly satisfying enough to knock enemies down. I do think that weapons flying off your character as it moves around is fun to look at, although in the back of my mind, it's always like, what if they had louder and more vibrant animations? But honestly, that's not too much of a concern. Another issue I have is with the movement itself. It's very jagged and has the classic PC trope of only being able to move in 8 directions, which doesn't feel good at all. Again, especially when you're this up close and personal, its issues are exaggerated. And my last problem with the combat isn't heavily related, but I mentioned the sound design. There isn't any sound design for picking up gold or XP, as far as I can tell. Unless it's super muted, but I only put the music on 0, so the sound effects should come through. I'm just not quite sure what's happening there. And keep in mind as well that this is a big part of the satisfaction of combat in survival likes as a whole. I think there are enough elements here to make combat fine, with the main focus being on the inventory management and being able to see your efforts in that management come through as soon as you leave your inventory. If you're still confused as to my real opinion, so am I, to be honest. This game has enough elements in combat and inventory management alone to be fun, and the fusion of the genres and their elements work enough to keep me interested, but I think it's mainly due to that genre fusion that I'm still entertained, as some of the elements pale in comparison to the others in the survival-like / bullet heaven genre. I suppose that the progression is enticing too, and that's a big part for me personally. Completing quests gives you rewards, as well as being able to spend earned currency on adding weapons and items to the pool of options, which I really like. You also get the option to spend that currency on basic upgrades too, in a similar fashion to how it's done in Halls of Torment. All in all, I'm weirdly interested in continuing to play. There's a lot of completionist things here and the achievements, and that'll always motivate me just that little bit extra, but there are some glaring issues or missing pieces here that you would usually find elsewhere in the genre. Surprisingly, I'm happy to recommend it to you if you're interested in this genre, but really only if that's the case. Hopefully, with time, they're able to truly polish the game so that it can stand out in the large pool of competition that it's in. Alright, Twitter, Twitch, subscribe, have a great day, and I will see you later.